Ever since I've been doing this, I have met so many astounding and inspiring people. And this next story is just another one to add to the pile. I want to introduce you to my friend, Krystaelynne. The work that she is doing is amazing. I think it's important that we shed light on the things that she's talking about. She's an author, she is a friend of the channel, and it is a true honor to have her on the show. So let's go. Just so you know, if talking about CSA triggers you in any way, I just want you to know what this particular video is going to be talking about. So thank you so much for being here, and let's get to it. Krystaelynne, it is such an honor to have you on the channel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy.
Of course. So you're an author. Take us through the steps of what brought you here. You're also the founder of a wonderful nonprofit. So go back to the beginning and tell us what your mission and where it came from.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, January, well, I'll take you back to the very beginning. And around November of 2020, I noticed that my 11-year-old, a child in my life, let's say that, a child in my life who was 11, started acting really funny. And I noticed she'd been acting funny for some time. But it wasn't till I started putting all the pieces together. I had a conversation with my mother who said, I went to drop off, so and so, and she didn't want to get out of the car. I thought it was a little odd. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to do some investigating. And I said, okay, mom, well, we need to talk to her mother. We need to talk to her mother. So I get on the phone with her mother and I say, given the childhood that we've had, I think it's really important that you look into whatever is going on with your daughter. I have some concerns. These are my concerns, and please take them seriously. She said, okay, I'll look into it. A week later, I got a call at about 7 o'clock in the morning saying that, hey, you were right. She's reported that she's being sexually abused by my husband. And without going into too many details, he was the deacon of our church and had married into my family and had been sexually abusing the child in my life starting when she was 8 years old to the age of 11. And he's now behind bars and was sentenced to 56 years to life in prison. It was a very just trying time for my entire family. We,
I'm
my,
so sorry.
yeah,
I'm so sorry. I'm sure that it never gets easy to tell the story ever.
no, but I find, surprisingly, I know that sharing my story and my family's story will help someone out there. So although it is not easy to share, I share it because it is needed. It's absolutely needed. And I think the more people tell their stories, the more people it'll help. So the child came to live with me while their mother was trying to put their life back together. And we began a journey of healing. I put her in intensive family trauma therapy. I sought intensive trauma therapy because her trauma triggered some trauma from my past childhood. And so we began a journey of healing. We started doing things that were going to make us happy. I took time off work and I said, we're going to do whatever it is that makes us happy. So we took long walks. We started playing board games, drawing, taking vacations, Legoland, Disneyland, whatever it was that would make us happy, we sought to do. Art, writing, journaling, whatever it was, we were going to do. So that led to my first book, Where Hands Go, which is the introduction to safe and unsafe touch. And just the time off and being able to interact with her, I wanted to write a book that helped parents, caretakers talk to their little ones about wanted and unwanted touches. And so that led to that first book. It also led to the start of my nonprofit called Kids Again Foundation. And its mission is to help children who are victims of sexual abuse be kids again. And we do that by sponsoring their participation in extracurricular activities and things that would, get them to bring out that childlike ness that they might have lost by being experienced to such adult behavior. And so I'm still on my healing journey. We are only a few years out, and my mission as an author is to help families talk to their youth about wanted and unwanted touches, about boundaries, about consent. And I felt that I failed the child in my life because I didn't have that personal conversation with her because I assumed her mother would. And so I want, if you're an adult or a teacher, have those conversations with the children around you because you never know if that parent is having those conversations. So even if it's just teaching them consent, I don't like that you touched me, or I don't feel like being touched today. Is that okay? And explain to them what consent is or boundaries and how important it is to set healthy boundaries and what those are. It doesn't have to be in depth about, sex or anything like that. It could just be consent, boundary, touch, or if you don't want to be touched today, that's okay. And what's a comfortable touch? What's an uncomfortable touch? Who touches are coming from. Sometimes it could be a shoulder touch from uncle that makes you uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's about identifying touches that make you comfortable versus uncomfortable and how to voice and set those boundaries to establish consent. So, yeah.
Especially in a religious community too, with that background, you're taught that there is this measure of safety within a religious community that, God's not going to let it happen, that there's
Mm,
this kind of this naivety about
mm.
this we're all we're all the same belief, therefore you can trust anyone and everyone. And if I may ask, what did the church do? Was there any recourse? Were there any changing of policies, anything like that that happened within the church?
There was no recourse, no changing in policy, no formal acknowledgement other than shock. And it was very unfortunate. Um, no one in the church reached out to my family that I can recall. I think some members did, but no, I believe the head preacher did not.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, so that really shattered um, how we perceive faith. Oh, how I perceive faith, and that's what I can.
Course. And trust. I really
Yes.
appreciate that you're talking about consent and and what is comfortable touch. I'm from the
Mm,
generation where if you didn't hug a family member, that was disrespectful.
right.
Oh, Wendy's
Right.
just shy. Oh, give Uncle so and so a hug and give that
Right.
weird aunt some love. And I'm really
Right.
grateful that you're talking about it. I know that TikTok Advocate had mentioned that you were also reading this in schools, and she
Yes.
also mentioned that you're funding this nonprofit by yourself. So
So
tell me a
yes.
little bit about this.
Yes. So I am working with another nonprofit called Journey to Self, who Aniqua is also funding her nonprofit by herself. I'm funding my nonprofit by myself.
Oh,
So and Aniqua, Journey to Self, the nonprofit that you were hearing about from the TikTok Advocate, they are based in Atlanta. So I will be working with them on some webinars and some campaigns going forward in 2023. So that's how we're connected in that
I
way.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were reading this book in school, and your
Yes.
nonprofit is for the book and it's for advocacy to teach kids about comfortable touch.
Great question. So my nonprofit and my authorship are very separate.
Oh, okay.
I've separated them just because I write a lot of different books and I didn't want to muddy the waters. So the nonprofit is we received our 501c3 and we are fundraising and doing all of those things we need to. But books and my advocacy also carry into being an author and my mission as an author. It's one and the same, but just the businesses are just separate.
I
But
see. Mhm.
I go into schools and I have a body safety and consent lesson
Mhm.
teaching that I give to schools presentation. I read 3 books, The Introduction to Safe and Unsafe Touch, The ABCs of Consent, and then Where Hands Go Body Safety Rules that teaches kids 10 rules to keep their bodies safe in school. I talk to them about boundaries, about touches, unwanted touches, and we talk about who to tell. And it's so rewarding. It's such a fun conversation to have. And in 2023, this year, I'll be doing a lot more school visits and really building out the program. It's going to be called the Body Safety Wise program, and we're going to hope to make it national. Yeah.
Oh, I already can. I want it in my kids' school. I want to reach out to the social workers in my area. What exactly would you need from our audience in addition to I want your book everywhere. So if, it'll be in it's in the description box for you to purchase her book. What would you need from the general public? What can we do? How can we help you? How can we, because I'm telling you, as someone who is a big advocate for CSA in general, but what started my advocacy was being a survivor and the truths about what goes on in high control religion or any religion for that matter. How can we help you? How can we support you?
Thank you so much. That's such a great question. I guess the best way to support me is to purchase my book, Where Hands Go, purchase all of my body safety books, The Introduction to Safe and Unsafe Touch, The
Mhm.
ABCs of Consent, and Where Hands Go Body Safety Rules. I have a bundle deal going on my website, ksdiggs.com, to purchase my books. But then if you would like to donate to my nonprofit, refer someone to my nonprofit, A Child in Need, who may want their extracurricular activities paid for or sponsored through my nonprofit, go to kidsagain.org and you can either donate and find out more about the nonprofit there. Just support, share this information, amplify, share my card, share my website, share the word, spread awareness, and educate youth in your community. That's the best way to help, is to be open and have open conversations and dialogues about consent, boundaries, and
What is
body
the
safety.
age group for this book, would you say?
Great question. So the introduction book, I would recommend starting at age 1,
Yes.
1 to 4.
Start
As
at pregnancy.
Start at pregnancy. Early is best. This is
Mhm.
mommy's body. This is
Mhm.
baby's body. And those are the early conversations you want to have, getting them to recognize that this is my body and that's your body and their body belongs to them. So that's the introduction book. You can read that as early as possible. I'd say age 1 to age 4, and maybe 5 and 6 if you haven't had those early conversations about bodies and, does their body belong to them and who to tell if they're ever uncomfortable. The Body Safety Rules, the second book in the series, I'd recommend to school age children. So about 3, 4, and then all the way up to age 10, having those early conversations.
You mentioned in the beginning how
Yes.
you saw the signs. And I don't want to reveal too much about your books because I want people to get them and give them to kids.
Mhm.
What did you notice? Because that may be something that people aren't aware of. What are some signs and
Oh,
symptoms for a
right.
child, what they may have been through?
So I'll just start with some statistics, some facts. 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused before the age of 18, and 1 in 6 boys. Some studies say 1 in 8 boys, but currently it's 1 in 6 boys. Some early signs of sexual abuse could be changes in their education. So decreased grades, acting out, or behavior changes. For the child in my life, we noticed that she stopped caring for herself. So stopped wanting to shower, no longer wanted to brush their teeth, just because she felt that if she were dirty, he wouldn't harm her anymore. So changes in hygiene, if you're noticing changes in hygiene, like, wait a minute, you used to want to bathe, is something else going on? Wearing baggy clothes or sweaters to cover up their bodies, no longer feeling comfortable in their bodies. Those are other signs that we noticed. Being afraid to be left at home, being afraid of the dark. Those are also signs of sexual abuse that we noticed in her.
How do you know the difference between normal tween behavior and something that could be a red flag?
It's tough. It's tough, but being a parent, I think you kind of know, like, okay, maybe this is normal,
Mhm.
maybe this is more normal. So just engage in yourself. Are you seeing a multitude of signs? Is there a bunch of signs that you're seeing grades decrease? And then now you're also seeing he doesn't want to shower, and now he's not willing to open up. Is it just the tween things or is it
I
more?
see.
So
Mhm.
I would recommend diving deep.
Mhm.
And if you're noticing, really big changes in your child, it's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to take your child to therapy, especially if they're not opening up to you. Maybe they might feel comfortable opening up to someone else.
Mhm.
Therapy is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And I want every family and everyone to
Everybody, I
know
say
that
this on every episode. Yes.
everybody, no matter their age,
Mhm.
having them go to therapy is a wonderful thing. It's not harmful, it's not scary. So send them to therapy. Say, hey, I've noticed these changes. If you don't want to talk to me about those changes, why don't we talk to so and so about those changes? So getting other people involved in a healthy way in your child's life to make sure that they're healthy in every
Yeah.
sense.
And I'm a big proponent of
Mhm.
therapy, just as
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent of going to the eye doctor or to a
Mhm.
well visit, or,
Yes.
it's a therapist does for the emotions what the eye doctor does for our eyes and so on. So I'm a
Yes.
big proponent of that. And what therapists do is they're able to have us prepared for something when
Mhm.
it happens, not
Yes.
when we're in crisis. We have the tools
Yes.
needed. And I think as a former child, I wish
Mhm.
I would have had those tools. I really do. So
Yeah.
really thankful you are talking about this.
These are my books. This is the introduction to safe and unsafe touch. The terminology has changed. We're in the sexual abuse community where we call it wanted and unwanted touch now because they're no longer teaching safe touch anymore. Because safe touch historically in the sexual abuse community, they would say the no zones. These are specific zones. However, predators use tactics such as grooming, and they start with tickling, shoulder touches, hugs, and caresses to get their victims to feel comfortable with those types of innocent touches. And unfortunately, those can be unwanted. So we're now changing the terminology to wanted versus unwanted touches. Yeah. Yeah.
Your star of your book is so cute.
Thank
She's
you.
so
Thank you
beautiful.
so much. I
Good.
felt that it was really important to have diverse characters.
Sure.
Unfortunately, a lot of the books on this specific topic do not feature a lot of diversity. So I really wanted to make an effort to include diversity on the covers. Unfortunately, sexual abuse happens to predominantly communities of color. In communities of color and low income communities. So I really wanted to make sure that characters were diverse. And in my next books going forward, we will have more variation of races, ethnicities, and genders throughout my books in very positive lights. So
Wow. Are you the illustrator as well?
I'm not, but I work with the best illustrator.
Oh,
We're working on the next book in the series, which is Where Hands Go, The Power of No, because no is a superpower. And it's important to know when and how to use it effectively to keep your body safe. So that is the next book in a series coming out really soon.
well, I would love to see this as a short film too. This would be.
Me
Can you
too.
imagine? I'm really happy that you're doing this because it starts in the home.
Thank
It
you.
starts with waking parents up, that not
Yes.
everybody is trustworthy. And
Right.
kids need to start also learning what is okay and what's not okay. If I would have had these tools, I think things would have been different. And I want this for the rest of our kids. So
Wow.
thank you for the educational
Thank
stats. Thank you so much for being here. And I would love to have you back on again if you ever want to
you.
give
Yes.
more information, more details. If there's
Yes.
ever something that you want to talk about, this is something that is in a couple of my videos where we're trying to shed more light on this very important topic. So thank you so
Mm,
much.
it's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your platform and highlighting sexual abuse in your platform. It's so huge and it's so needed. And thank you so much for having me. It's
Of
such an honor.
course. Thank you so much for watching this episode. And if you want to contact her, all of her information is in the description box. And if you want to tell your story, go to underyournay.com and click on share your story, and the schedule will pop right up. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.